Hello grade 9s again. So I've just spoken to you about finding the rule, okay, of a data set. So let's say we've got those values again, the same values, 0, x equals 0 when y equals 4, x equals 1 when y equals 7, and so on, okay. Let's say you've been given a question that says justify how you can tell that this is a linear relationship. Okay? So justify, what you need to do is you need to be describing that in words. You need to describe the relationship between these two variables, your x and your y. So you need to be looking for a pattern. Okay? What's a pattern we recognize? Well, our x is going up by 1 each time, isn't it? It's going up by 1. What do we notice happens to the y when our x goes up by 1? Our y goes up by 3, doesn't it? So that's how we justify this as a linear equation. Because when a change in x occurs, we expect a change in y to happen. And this is a constant change because x is always constantly going up by 1. And what's happening to our y? It's constantly going up by 3. Okay? So that's what we need to do to answer this question. We should write it as when x increases by 1, so when x increases by 1, y increases by 3. Okay? This is a constant rate. So it's a constant rate. We notice it's a constant rate. Okay? Because x increases by 1 each time, and we can say in brackets constantly. So x increases by 1 each time, and y increases by 3 each time. Constantly, or a constant rate of change. Okay, so that's how you should be justifying your answer. Look for a pattern and see what's happening between those two variables. Okay, so if you were given a question of justify how you can tell the relationship is linear, that's how you would be approaching it. Okay, with the same set of data. Okay, if it asks you solve the equation that exists between x and y, what that requires you to do is, in my last video, you need to find the gradient. Yep. You need to find the y-intercept. And then you can turn it into a rule that looks like y equals mx plus c. Okay? This set of data represented y equals 3x plus 4. If you want to have a look at how I did that, go back to the last video. Okay, how do we find the y-intercept? A refresher, you find the y-intercept when x equals 0. Okay, the y-intercept is when the graph hits the y-axis. Okay, so it actually crosses at that point. The gradient tells us, refresher, the gradient tells us how steep the line is. Okay, so it tells us if it's very, very steep, or if it's only a little bit, okay? If our gradient value is positive, what does that mean? It means that our gradient is positive and our line is going to look like so. If our gradient is negative, our line is going to go from left to right. It's going to be sloping down. If the gradient's positive, it's going to be sloping up. Okay? After you'd answer a question like that, it might then ask you to graph the linear equation on the axis. So on the axes, you've got your y and your x. And remember, you're looking at the Cartesian plane. What's important when you graph a linear equation or plot points on a graph, you label your y-axis, which is your vertical, and the horizontal is the x. What is also important is that the distance between all your points along your axes are equal. So you need a ruler. Okay, your ruler you can do 1 centimeter apart. Okay, I like to do that because you know that it's quite easy to figure out, and you can actually make those lines even, and you can just go up by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Once you had done all this labeling, then you could plot the points. If you want to look at plotting a graph, please look at the last video I did, which was finding the rule. And that applies in that concept, and it follows through along in these type of questions as well. Thank you.